What's going on, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? It's your boy Wilbur Floop, Humble Floop the third. The Q is silent, no relation, but you can call me Dylan. And welcome back to another VFX tutorial. Specifically, we're going to be doing the Omnitrix display from Ben 10 Omniverse. This tutorial is basically going to have two parts. Part 1 is going to be creating the holographic wheel that the Omnitrix displays. And part 2 is going to be the faceplate sliding up, revealing the Omnitrix symbol. If you don't want to create the holographic wheel from scratch, I am going to put a link in the description below where you can download the effect. If you do decide to go that route, go ahead and skip to this timestamp. I would recommend watching the whole video just so you can see how the wheel is created and pick and choose what aliens you want to put in your wheel so you have more variety and customization to it. However, if you really don't care what aliens are on the wheel and just want to create an awesome effect, that's perfectly fine too. With that, let's get started. So first we're going to start with getting your footage and putting it in the comp. As you can see, I've already gone ahead and imported the holographic heads for the aliens I'm going to be using. We're going to start by creating a new composition. We're going to set the height and width to around 700, and we're going to title this head. And then over here where we have it created, we're going to go ahead and duplicate this so that we have 10 total comps. Go ahead and rename the comps for the different aliens you're going to be using. Now that I have all my different comps, go ahead and open all of them. And we're going to go ahead and put each individual head in its own comp. Now when we do this, you might notice that some of the heads don't exactly fit perfectly in the comp. We're going to go ahead and resize and position them so that every head is roughly the same size. I know that since every alien has a different head shape, it might be a little difficult to get them to be the same size, so I would say just eyeball it to as close as you possibly can. Alright, now that we've resized each icon in their own individual comps, and we're going to go up and create a new composition again. This time we're going to make the resolution 1080 by 1080. Now here we're going to go ahead and create a new solid. Make sure the color is black. Then we're going to do that again. This color, we're going to go ahead and make a limeish green. Then we're going to go over to the shape tool and set it to eclipse tool and go ahead and double click that so we get a perfect circle right here. Then we're going to go over to the mask and hit Control D to duplicate it and go ahead and set that to subtract. Then we're going to hit Control T to bring up the transforms of the mask. Now we're going to go ahead and shrink the mask a little bit. Make sure to hold Control and Shift so that it shrinks evenly and stays in the center. Now we're just going to go ahead and select both masks, Control T, and then hold down Shift and Control to shrink them down a little bit. We want to make sure we have a little extra border on the outside so that any glows we apply to this don't get cut off later on. Now we're going to go ahead and duplicate the lime green layer and then go over to layer, solid settings. Now instead of lime green, we're going to change this to like a regular green. Then we're going to go back over to the shape tool and change it to rectangle. Go ahead and double click on that and switch that to subtract. Change the size of this so that it cuts off the top half of the second layer. Real quick before I forget, I want to change the name of this comp to holographic wheel just so I know which comps are which. Now we're going to go ahead and duplicate the green layer. We're going to go ahead and delete the rectangular mask we just made. We're going to go ahead and scale up the outer mask and then scale down the inner mask. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and create another rectangular mask. We're going to scale this down. We're going to switch this to intersect. This basically means the duplicated layer will only show up where this mask appears. I'm going to go ahead and just shape this so that it covers this area. But I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of an angle. So now we're going to go ahead and duplicate the two green layers real quick and bring them to the top. Now go ahead and pre-compose each layer. I'm going to name this one green semicircle since it's the bottom half of the wheel. Then I'm going to go ahead and pre-compose the rectangle selection layer. Now there's probably a better way of doing this. However, to get the specific effect that we're looking for, this is the only way that I can really think of to do it. So we're just going to do it this way. Go ahead and search for the fine edges effect and apply it to the semicircle layer. We're going to go ahead and invert that so that it's completely outlined. Next, we're going to go up to layer and then go down to auto trace. And as you can see, it's found where the edge of the image is. Hit OK. Now this is going to create a mask following that exact shape. Go ahead and turn fine edges off and then go ahead and apply the Saber effect. Now we want the glowing line to follow the mask. So in order to do that, first we're just going to go over to render setting and switch the composite settings from black to transparent. Then we're going to go over to customize core, Saber, and switch that to layer mask. So now as you can see, it's gone ahead and adhered to the actual mask. Go ahead and look through the different presets to figure out what kind of look you want. I'm just gonna stick with default for now, and I'm gonna switch the color obviously to the same green. Personally, I kind of feel like this glow is a little too much, so I'm just gonna mess with the settings a little bit. Alright, so once you have the Saber effect the way you like it, go ahead and add a tint effect to it. So we're going to go ahead and change the black and white to the same lime green color as before. So now we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing we did to the rectangular selector at the top. Once we have the mask for that layer, we can just go ahead and copy and paste the effects from what we did previously. Real quick, we're just going to move the rectangle selection layer down below the semicircle layer. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all the icons together so I can just bring them in all at once. So we're going to go ahead and hit S to activate a keyframe on the scale, and then go to P and activate a keyframe for the X and Y positions. Now we're going to go ahead and just mess with the scale and positions of each head. If you want to turn off the half circle and the glows while you mess around with these settings, feel free to. Now that you have the heads where you want them, we're going to go ahead and add a glow effect to them, just so they blend in better. Then once you have your glow settings figured out, go ahead and copy and paste it to the rest of the heads. Now we are going to end up animating the heads moving throughout the wheel, but first we're going to go back to our original clip, and we're going to take our original footage and we're going to track it real quick. So go to tracker, track motion. Now we're just going to want to find a point that'll be easy for us to track throughout the clip. I'm going to go ahead and pick this little area where the paint has chipped, and we're just going to lay through. Alright, now once you have your point tracked, we're going to go ahead, go to layer, new, and create a null object. And then we're basically going to apply our tracking data to that null object. So you're going to hit edit target, select the null object, press OK, and then we're going to hit apply. At this point, we can go ahead and bring in the holographic layer and set it to screen. Go ahead and hit S so you can scale it down a little bit. Now real quick, we're going to go ahead and click this little button right here to turn into a 3D layer, so that now we can change the angle and position to match the camera. Alright, now once you have it scaled and positioned correctly, we're going to go ahead and take this little pin whip tool and drag it over to the null object. That's basically going to link the layer to the tracking data, so that anywhere the Omnitrix goes, the circle is going to follow. Now the reason I had us put in the hologram wheel now is so we can figure out at what point to have the images move as I scroll through the different aliens. Real quick, if you have a number pad, you can hit the little star symbol. That'll put in a little marker. If you do not have a number pad, if you just hold shift and press 8, it'll do the same thing. And we're just going to keep doing this back and forth, figuring out when I start to scroll through to the next alien. Now that I've marked when the hologram should cycle through, we're going to go ahead and actually animate them cycling through. If we highlight all the icon layers and hit U to bring up our keyframes, I'm going to go ahead and put in the keyframes again. So if you're wondering why I had you put all the different icons in their own pre-comps, now each head has the same scale, height, and width. For Atomics here, if I move my cursor over, at this point, it should be where Blocks is. If I copy the keyframes from Blocks and paste them for Atomics, the head is now exactly where it needs to be. Obviously, the position in between needs to be modified. Now, we're going to be able to use the keyframes from each different head to move the next one to the exact same spot. So now we're going to take Gravitax keyframes and paste those for Blocks. We're going to take Gut Rot and paste them for Gravitac, and so on and so on. Now we're just going to find the point where the Omnitrix is activated from me placing my hand down. So I'd say like around here it should activate. We're going to go ahead and keyframe the scale and positions. Go for, let's say, 5 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Enable those keyframes. Now we're going to go back to the starting point, and we're just going to shrink everything down to, let's say, 5. Yeah, I think 5 is good. And I'm going to enable motion blur. So now once I activate it, the wheel pops up like this. Right here is where the ring finishes appearing. So we'll go back into the comp at this point. We don't need these markers anymore, so we can go ahead and delete all of them. Go ahead and create a marker so we know where the ring finishes appearing. So we're going to have the selector here first. So go ahead and bring the opacity down to 0 and set a keyframe. Then we're going to go forward 5 frames and set the opacity to 100. And go ahead and hit F9 to set it to easy ease. And then we're going to go up to the glowing outline and apply the same opacity to that. 2 frames in, we'll paste the opacity settings for Atomics. Go in another 2 and then paste it for Blocks and Gut Rot. Another 2 for Walk a Trout and Gravitac. Technically, you could stop here in terms of the overall wheel. This is pretty accurate to how it is in the show. However, I kind of want to try to make this look a little bit more realistic in terms of how it might look in real life. So we're going to go ahead and apply a couple more effects to this just to get a little bit more realism out of it. So first, we're going to go back into the holographic wheel pre-comp. We're going to hit Control A. We're going to go ahead and select everything but the black background. Pre-compose everything. So first, we're going to go ahead and add noise effect and set the amount of noise to around 10%. Next, we're going to go ahead and add a Venetian blinds effect. We're going to set the transition to 25%, the direction to 90, the width to 15, and the feather to 5. Now we're going to go ahead and create a new solid layer. We'll go ahead and make it white. And we're just going to create a quick little rectangular mask. We're going to hit F to bring up the feather for the mask. And we're going to set the feather to about 100. Next, we're going to hit P to bring up position. We're going to hold Alt and click the little stopwatch next to the Y position. And we're going to type a little expression, wiggle, open parenthesis, 0.5, comma, 2000, close parenthesis. We're going to go ahead and click our layer. We're going to hit Control D to duplicate it. Then we're going to select both layers, pre-compose them. So now we're going to go ahead and duplicate the original hollow wheel pre-comp. We're going to go ahead and move it above the scan lines. We're going to go ahead and create an alpha matte. And then we're also going to set the blend mode to overlay. Next, we're going to go ahead and create an adjustment layer. We're going to go ahead and add the turbulent displacement effect.
Turbulent displacement, turbulent displacement.
We're going to change the displacement type to horizontal displacement, the amount to 100, the size to 11, the complexity to 10. And next, we're going to go ahead to the start of our composition. We're going to keyframe the evolution and go all the way to the very end of the comp and set the keyframe to 1. Now we're going to go ahead and create another new solid layer. You're going to make another rectangular mask. You're going to hit P to bring up the position, Alt click the Y position and type in the expression wiggle, open parenthesis, 5000, close parenthesis. And then you're going to duplicate this layer also. And then you're going to go ahead and hit pre-compose. Next, you're going to go back to the adjustment layer. You're going to want to create an alpha matte. We're just going to go back to the hollow wheel layer. Go ahead and create a new white solid layer above it. And we're just going to set the blending mode to overlay. And we're going to hit T to bring up the opacity. We'll set it to like maybe 50. Now, as long as I was able to explain everything properly and you were able to follow along, this is what the end result should look like. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the little notification bell so that you're notified when I upload part 2 of this effect, detailing how to have the faceplate slide up and reveal the Omnitrix core. Until then, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace!